Welcome to Tea Time with Alice. I'm Alice, and today I am drinking the Bigelow Botanicals Blackberry Raspberry Hibiscus Cold Brew Tea. This is the only cold brew tea I will be making for a tea time video this year because it's summertime and I felt like it would be appropriate. It's also very fruity. So a cold brew tea is tea bags or tea leaves that you steep in cold water rather than hot water. Now I did make a hot brewed iced tea earlier this year. It was a mango passion fruit herbal tea. You steep it in hot water and then you let it cool down to room temp and then you chill it in the fridge. So I did do that earlier this year, but this specifically is a cold brew tea where you steep it in cold water. And for something like raspberry and hibiscus that have a very tart flavor, having the cold brew kind of softens it a little bit, and I think it's really refreshing rather than a more tart iced tea. So this is just kind of like drinking like flavored water, which is nice in the summertime when you just kind of want something refreshing. So that's what I'm drinking today, and we are going to be talking about a very particular and very famous story. Now, once upon a time, when I was a freshman in high school, I was given an assignment to write my own version of a classic fairy tale, and I chose Cinderella. This was not my favorite fairy tale, but I chose it. I honestly don't remember why, looking back. I think maybe because it's so versatile, and that's something that I'll mention today as well. It's a very versatile story, but basically the story of Cinderella is one that most, if not all of you, are familiar with. It's about a young person, often a female, but not always, that is usually orphaned or has lost one of their parents. So one of or both of their parents are dead, and they are being cared for by their step-parent and step-siblings. When I say cared for with air quotes, it's because they're actually being emotionally and sometimes physically abused by these step family members. And it's usually because of jealousy of the beauty and kindness and goodness of the protagonist. Sometimes there's more like either political or social or economic reasons for it, like, you know, they don't have enough money for servants, so they make their stepkid be a servant so that they can live more lavishly even though they don't really have the means to. Things like that could be as well, but there's usually some kind of emotional reason as well, like being jealous of the Cinderella character. So protagonist character is being abused, and then with the help of either some sort of magical creature or just by doing some kind of special thing themselves, they end up going to a party or a ball or a festival, meeting somebody very important and wealthy there, like a prince, falling in love, and then after navigating through some additional obstacles, ending up with that person and living happily ever after. So this is the story that we've heard so many different versions of. I can list a few. So there's the Charles Perrault version. Charles Perrault is a French fairy tale author, but he would take, you know, classic folk tales and then rewrite them in his own words, like Grimm's fairy tales. The Grimm's brothers also have a version of Cinderella, which is a lot more brutal. There's the Disney animated version from the 50s. There's a really cute, sweet, like not supernatural version from I think like the late 60s, early 70s that takes place in Harlem, New York. with a black Cinderella, and I love that version. There's also the Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical, which they did a version of back in the 50s or 60s, and then they did another version of in the 90s with Whitney Houston and Brandy. They have done, there's Ever After, which is a more like realistic Renaissance retelling of it that's also not supernatural. They have done you know, more modern day versions of it, like a Cinderella story with Hilary Duff, and then there were a whole bunch of other Cinderella stories with, you know, up and coming Disney stars that I don't even know how many there are now. There are lots of versions that you might be familiar with in Western culture, but there are also versions from all over the world, and it goes back like thousands of years, and scholars even debate like what the original Cinderella story was from. Some say Egypt, some say China. It kind of depends on what elements of the story you consider to be Cinderella versus just something kind of like it. So super versatile. Basically, I think the reason for that is because the basic idea is like rags to riches, where somebody who is in their heart very kind and loving and gentle and compassionate and brave is like forced to be a servant, is looked down on, is treated poorly, and then their lives take a turn for the better, whether by the help of friends or just their own, you know, like determination to get out of their situation, and they end up sort of making up for all of the bad times by being so much higher even than they would have ever dreamed. So like, you know, falling in love with a prince, becoming a princess, and being able to ultimately make a difference in the society around them. But even if not, just having a better life, the life that they deserve but were not given until that magical thing happens. Sometimes it's magical, sometimes it's not, but we're gonna call it the magical turning point. So I don't know why I like this story so much as an adult. As a kid, I really liked portal magic stories. I liked stories about kids being spirited away to another world that was magical and where they could have adventures. I liked Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Harry Potter, The Chronicles of Narnia, things like that, Spirited Away even. Even though they're dark versions of that as well, I liked the real world person being able to be transported into a magical world. And that was my jam as a kid. Now, I also liked the idea of being told by some long-lost grandmother that I was actually the princess of some country in Europe that no one's ever heard of before, which is The Princess Diaries. And that's kind of a loose Cinderella, like it draws elements of Cinderella without being that story exactly. And I liked that idea too, but again, it's this idea of being like taken away from your mundane, tedious reality and escaping into something more fantastical and exquisite and majestic. And so I was thinking a lot because as an adult, like it kind of hit me within the last few years that I really like the Cinderella story. And I don't know why. I just kind of started gravitating towards it more and more and realizing like feeling a nostalgia for all of these versions of it that I sort of liked okay as a child, and like discovering a new love for them. and also wanting to find new versions of it. And I was thinking so hard. I did research on the Cinderella story and why it's so like worldwide and cross time and space, and you know why it's so beloved, and it just seems so like basic to me in so many ways. And also because it's so popular, I just felt like that was kind of, you know, oh, I don't want to be like everybody else. Everybody likes Cinderella and I have to be like everybody else. But as an adult, I dig it. Like, there's something about it that I enjoy a lot. And I was thinking really hard about what that was. And I think that the thing I like about it is the ball. So I wasn't abused as a child. I had a great childhood. I mean, don't really feel like I need a fairy godmother, but I've got a pile of bills on the table that I've been avoiding. Not just bills, letters, things that I need to do that I've been avoiding. I have to go to work tomorrow morning. I, you know, am struggling to decide who to vote for this year. There's a lot of adulty things that I've got to do that are pretty tedious and challenging, to say the least. And I love the idea of just being able to dress up and put on some fancy clothes and make myself look awesome and go to a ball where I can eat canapes and dance and pretend like I'm in a different world. And so as an adult, the Cinderella story is kind of like a portal magic story for me. It's where I can escape to a better world, sort of that feels a little bit like a fantasy. And so I think that might be part of why I like it so much, and this idea of kind of like her going through a glow up. And as a person who is getting older, I'm trying my hardest to deal with the inevitable aging of my body and to keep myself feeling as young and fresh as I can without necessarily disguising myself. And so I think this idea of like, you know, dressing up, being the best version of yourself, going to this world that feels like beautiful and vibrant and colorful and rich, where you can just dance and have a good time, and meet people. That sounds great to me. Now, I don't need to meet a handsome prince because I already found mine, but I like the idea of kind of letting go a little bit and maybe meeting some other people that can be friends, which I also have a really hard time with. So all of those things combined, I feel like, are one of the reasons that the Cinderella story has sort of come back to me as an adult, and that I can appreciate it in a new way. So that said, I want to propose something. Now, there are a lot of things going on in the world, and I don't necessarily think we should just toss them all out and spend a bunch of money on a party. But I feel like there are ways that you can get together with family or friends in a more magical way, like we do at holidays. But why do we have to just do them at holidays? Why can't we do them anytime? So I propose that we have a party, not all of us, but you know, that individually you can find some people in your life to get together with, to have a little mini ball, and you can dress up and look fresh, and all kind of pitch in to make sure that there's good food and drink there, and just escape for a little while. Even if it's not really an escape, it's just kind of making something better out of what you already have. So that's what I'm hoping to do in my life, and just a little a little idea for you if you'd like to try it in yours. Thank you for listening. Have a happy rest of your summer, and I'll see you in spooky season.